onto Newgate Road.
So welcome to Old Newgate. I'm Morgan Bengal. I am the new museum assistant for Old Newgate Prison, functioning as the site coordinator here. I work with the state to help manage the on-the-ground components of Newgate under the direction of Liz Shapiro as the director. On July 14th, we are excited to do our grand reopening of Old Newgate. On that day, we'll be showcasing our community partners. The Marquis Fife and Drum will be here, along with Governor's Foot Guard and local mineral groups and archaeology specialists. So we hope to really showcase what Newgate is all about, including the mine and the prison yard.
This is so exciting. Welcome our new gate at Newgate. This is how our visitors are going to be entering the site on July 14th when we welcome you all here. And Morgan, why don't you tell people a little bit more about what's going to be happening on that day, because it is a really big day for us.
Yeah, so on that day we really hope to showcase our community partners, including the East Granby Historical Society. We hope to get their stagecoach that was originally at Newgate and they now own it here on site. We hope to showcase the Department of Environmental and Energy Protection that has been here working with us, and the bats. So they'll be tabling, as well as the play that we've had commissioned. A playwright's written a wonderful 30-minute play about Newgate and its characters, performed by the Theater Guild of Simsbury. So we're very excited for that. That'll be continuing throughout the season on selected Sundays.
And I heard the Marquis of Granby might be here?
Yep, the Marquis of Granby, the Fife and Drum, they'll be here, as well as the Governor's Foot Guard. They're excited to also contribute, and a bunch of community partners. And then those partners will be continuing through the season. We'll have an archaeological and geology day, as well as a bat day, to help show the vast interpretation of the site.
It would be kind of fair to say that July 14th will be a taste of Newgate.
Exactly.
So it's pretty much a little bite of everything that the visitor will get to experience at different days during the summer. And we are going to hopefully have some food here for you as well. So.
And what are your hours going to be during the summer?
During the summer, we'll be open Friday afternoon through Monday morning. So Friday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Monday 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So hope to get people on that Monday morning as they're leaving town, but that'll be the extent of our season, starting July 14th.
Right, our thought for Monday was that if anybody has visitors over the weekend and they're staying over on Sunday night, there's so few places and so few things to do on Monday morning. If people don't need to leave till lunchtime, they can come over here and bring a picnic and have lunch over here before they get into their cars and head home.
So one of the things we're really working on is repairing the nosings on the stairs so that they're more secure for visitors walking down them. But otherwise, the first few are in pretty good shape. So more lights will be on, but right now there's scatters lights throughout the whole tunnel system. But now since the bats are gone from hibernating, we'll be able to move forward with those repairs. Our plan is to have the whole prison yard open for self-guided visitation. We'll have docents and guides set up around giving more information about the prison yard. And then in terms of the mine, there will either be, depending on visitation on any given day, there'll be individual tours, groups of 10 or so going through with a guide, or we'll have stationed guides down here. So visitors will be able to go through the whole tunnel, the loop, when everything is up and running again.
It seems a little less wet today than it did for Halloween last time. Question, are we going to have another Halloween celebration here at Newgate this fall?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we could not have it. Everyone is so excited. So we're not sure what it'll look like, but it'll be similar to last year with some improvements and definitely a celebration.
Newgate was closed at the end of the season in 2009 because of a major problem. If you see behind us, there's a guardhouse. What happened is it was noticed that the guardhouse was starting to crack and essentially slide downhill on a diagonal basis. It was built on old mine tailings, so it never really had a secure foundation. What they did in the time between closure and I believe it was finished in 2016, was they actually lifted up the back of the building. You can see where the stone part is. They pulled stone parts in, ran needle beams through that building, and lifted it up in order to put micropilings down all the way down to the bedrock. It was a major, major project. Now the building's in perfect condition, ready for visitors, beginning on July 14th.
So we're really lucky to have this space in our prison yard of ruins. We have this whole intact building which we can really use, and so the progression of the site will be, right now we have some panels put up from previous exhibits, but we hope to really get people's feedback in this room and also use it as a hands-on interactive space.
Yeah, and it also looks like you're very easily set up to have small lectures, maybe small performances.
Yep, exactly. We hosted the archaeology conference because we were able to fit 40 plus people in here for presentations. So we want to leave it as open as possible for those groups to utilize our site.
So the 4-story cell block is what we're looking at over here, and I think when people look at it, it is extremely evocative because it's certainly the tallest archaeological remains in the state of Connecticut, and it's pretty unique for the entire United States. You don't see things like this very often. It is in a currently pretty fragile condition. It was originally built in the 1820s, and then it was destroyed by fire in the early part of the 1900s. And ever since it was destroyed, it hasn't really ever been restored in any way. And of course, you can see how it looks right now. It doesn't look very good. But we are anticipating, as we move forward on the site, we have sort of what I would call a 10 to 15-year strategic plan for the site, wherein by the end of that time, all of the things that you see that look structurally unsound are going to be stabilized and conserved, and we're just going to continue to build on a better visitor experience. So people coming to the site can look, and every season that they come, every time that they visit, they'll hopefully see an improvement, something new and exciting. Everybody always wants to know what's going on with Beats Tavern, and it's very exciting. We had high hopes of, by this particular summer, being able to offer all the people who pass through here a beautifully painted and re-roofed Beats Tavern along with our 2 other buildings that we own. Unfortunately, we discovered some things that slowed us down a little bit, including asbestos in the window muntins, so in the caulking that keeps the glass in place. And as soon as you have asbestos, we have to make sure that we slow down and take a look at it and work with all the environmental regulations. So I am happy to report, though, that progress is moving forward, and in fact we're going to be having by the time you are watching this video, we will be almost finished with our bidding process, and so the painting and the re-roofing of Beats Tavern and the 2 adjacent buildings, the building that's across the street and the building that's just north of Beats Tavern, will be ready to go. They will be painted and re-roofed and re-guttered and made secure by the end of this museum season. And I'm going on record saying that to you and everyone right now. So it's very exciting.
I'm just super excited that Newgate is opening this year. I'm very pleased to be here today with Director of Museum Operations, Liz Shapiro, and Museum Assistant Morgan Bengal, who's going to be spending most of her life here for as long as we're open, I guess. It's been a long road. It's been a while since it's been open, and I think it's a great boon to the community. I also couldn't fail to mention that one of the reasons we've been able to get open is because of the wide community support. Our open house in 2016, which had an army of volunteers from the community, is a big reason that the state of Connecticut actually got the attention it needed and hired Liz. And then Liz, with Morgan's help, was able to put on some programs last fall. So we've been able to actually demonstrate that, hey, this is going to be a high demand place. I'm also really happy that Catherine Smith, the Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development and Community Development, has been with us all along to try to get this open. She's been a champion for getting Newgate open, and I think she does see, like a lot of us do, its economic development potential for this area.
It not only is a great place for people to visit, but it is, of course, a part of our economic activity here in the state as well. So we believe that we're going to see a lot of excitement about the reopening and many thousands of people coming to Old Newgate, which of course has the byproduct of bringing dollars of people spending money on lunch and, you know, maybe staying at a hotel, and a lot of activity for the local vendors right there in East Granby, but of course as well as for the region. Because it is an asset that has been kind of off the grid for a little while, so I think there's going to be a lot of interest for people to come back. I mean, if you just look over the last year or so when we've had the property opened for short stints, we've had 2,500 people show up at one event, a day-long event, and about 500 people at another open house. So we believe that we'll be easily exceeding the prior run rate of around 10,000 visitors per year. You know, I think with the refurbishments that we've put in, over $500,000 worth of you know, safety equipment, new lighting, and making the place just much easier and much more in line with the way it used to look. It's been all done to historic preservation standards, so I think it's going to be really exciting for people to see this. Tourism is a big part of our economy here in the state of Connecticut. It's almost $15 billion of annual generation of economic activity. So it's a part of our economy we take very seriously and that we promote. And so adding this additional asset back into the mix of places people can come visit in the state, we think will be very beneficial and will help that number, that economic activity, continue to increase. You know, it's very near our airport, it's very near the Massachusetts border, it's very accessible for people all over the New England region, and it's really an exciting place. Most people don't get to go underground very often and see kind of the way people used to live and operate, if you will, in this kind of way. So we're very optimistic about it, and we think this will be a really great asset, not just today, but for, you know, decades to come for the state.
I'm Jim Hayden, First Selectman of the town of East Granby, and I've been First Selectman. I'm in my 6th term. I'm working on 11 years, going on 12 years. And one of the things that we're very proud of in East Granby is Old Newgate Prison. And I was very dismayed early on in my administration when, for safety reasons, good reason, the state was no longer able to keep Old Newgate Prison open. And I hearken back to my wife, is born and brought up in East Granby, and I hearken back to stories of my in-laws talking about in the 1930s and 1940s. They used to come dancing here at Old Newgate. There was a lot of activities that used to go on. So we've had a long family relationship with Old Newgate, and delighted that we've seen the Renaissance, or the beginning of the Renaissance, with all the work the state's doing in the last couple of years. July 14th is a date that is an important one for East Granby and all the folks around the area and surrounding towns, because we're officially going to be open, and it's been a lot of hard work that the state's done to get us to where we have to be from this perspective to open up. But it's just been phenomenal, the response. And what it is I remember, I think it was two and a half years ago, it was a drizzly day in November, and it was the first time that we had been open in 7 or 8 years. And it was cold and it was rainy, and there was 1,500 people here. And it just showed how significant this whole area is to the greater area, the surroundings. And one of the things that I did at the time is I was asked to speak and give a couple words, and I did. And I said, anyone that's been here as a school kid, please raise your hand. And all these hands raise up, and they're all 30, 40-year-old parents who had brought their children with them. So the continuum of getting Old Newgate back and open consistently, and having it be a source of regional pride and of pride for the town of East Granby, but just the teaching education opportunity is just phenomenal. So there's nothing better than being here on a beautiful sunny day at Old Newgate, knowing that we're going to be open again for business.
The fact that Old Newgate Prison is reopening is fantastic news for North Central Connecticut. It's really a focal point for a lot of events throughout the North Central Connecticut towns. It is dark, it's dank, and it's completely cool. It's very historical. There are prisoners in there from revolutionary times and crazy stories about people trying to escape. They're still finding artifacts on the grounds, and people love to have events at that place, especially in the fall. A lot of interesting things happening up there. totally excited. Myself, Representative Zawistowski, and others throughout North Central Connecticut worked real hard to reopen the prison. This is great news. There's nothing like seeing a place where history actually took place, and to see a place where Revolutionary War soldiers were kept after they were captured, that brings history back to life. So I'm certain that schools throughout North Central Connecticut and even beyond will use this as a place to help teach living history lessons to our students.
Well, I'm Tony Healy. I own Capture Visual Marketing. We're out of Simsbury, Connecticut. It's a great place to be, local to the valley and not too far from Hartford and all that, but we're visual marketers. We do everything from photography to 3D walkthroughs, immersive virtual tours, virtual reality tours as well, and we also do aerial photography, aerial imaging, so a little video and so forth as well. I grew up in Windsor. I've known about Old Newgate pretty much since 1972, and we used to come here and play on the grounds when we can get away with it. You know, it was unfortunate that it was closed down for some time because some of our kids didn't get to see it. Now they're getting to see it. We started talking about showcasing this facility late January, early February, and the first thing was, how do we showcase it? Do we show it gloomy because it was a prison? You know, how are we really going to showcase this? And after a little time, we got to see that we really wanted to show it on a nice sunny day so we could showcase the facility in its best light. I could tell you right off the bat, much to our surprise, I mean, I've been telling them here that that there's a buzz, that the place is opening, and I think that in a very strong way we were able to incorporate today's technology into social media and so forth and be able to help get that information out to the masses as quick as possible, that they're going to be having a grand opening in July, and not only locally to Granby, Simsbury and so forth, but out to masses around Connecticut, Massachusetts, and so forth. And social media being the buzz and everything, you can place the tours that we created, whether or not they're aerial or they're 3D or virtual reality or whatever, you can place that on social media and share it. And I think we did our job, because I think in the first week or two we had seen 10,000 hits or 10,000 views on the video that we did for the aerial. Tells us that people are looking, tells us people are interested in coming here, and I think the staff at SHPO have to be prepared for that.
That's what it looked like when it was on the prison grounds, inside the wall. That's the Beats Tavern.
My name is Nancy Moody, and I've lived in East Granby for 40 years. I've been involved with the East Granby Historical Society for almost as long. It was established as an organization in 1976, and I joined a couple of years after that, and I've been involved with it to different degrees through the years. I'm currently the president, and we're standing in front of our Historical Society Barn Museum, which has only been here for the past 11 years. And now we have displays and a full museum that people can come in and look at. The Stagecoach, we're of course very excited that Old Newgate Prison is going to be reopened again after being closed so many years. Being in our town to have such a great historic tourist attraction is just wonderful, and to have it open again. Our connection with the prison is the Stagecoach, because when it was operated as a tourist attraction and was open for people to just go and visit, the owner at that time brought in different tourist attractions for people, including things like petting zoo animals, a World War I tank, and a stagecoach that he purchased in 1918 at an auction. And what we're especially happy about is that the prison having been closed for so long, there's practically a generation of children that grew up without being able to go and visit it. So now their parents are thrilled to be taking this generation over to learn all about this historic site, and all the classrooms can again go over and visit like they used to do in the past. So many people have told us as kids their schools went over and visited, so that can start happening again. And then obviously we can make the connection that they can in turn come and visit our building to see what we've got on display, including the stagecoach.
Old Newgate has been a tourist attraction for more than 200 years. People began actually coming there in the early 1800s while it was still a prison. Now, there were a lot of things that attracted them. You had this really interesting site, and at that time, people were actually inventing the concept of tourism. So they were picking places that they could learn things from. And this was one of the first state prisons. And they thought, well, there's a government institution for penology, so we'll go check it out. They went there. The setting was beautiful, but it also was kind of austere and scary. So, it had its own attraction. And then the actual old copper mines where the prisoners were held, the prisoners called it hell, and it really was kind of hellish. So that had a really dismal, scary aspect for people. The prisoners, for these early visitors, were almost like an exhibit. They were, these were very moralistic, middle-class people at the time of the Second Great Awakening, when there was a real interest in people improving their lives. And the prisoners were living examples of the wages of sin. You'd go there, you'd see them, and you'd go, oh, they're wretched, and they're poor and pitiful. They're also kind of scary. I mean, it was, they really were an exhibit. It's kind of, we look at that now and we think there's just so much that, we wouldn't do that way in this day and age. But that's the way it started. Even after the prison closed in 1827, they built the new prison in Wethersfield, people still came. And they came because these stone buildings, as they began to collapse, they already looked like they were a castle along the Rhine. And then they took on this crumbling kind of medieval castle look that it fit this aesthetic feeling of the mid-19th century when people were trying to capture the sublime, these beautiful vistas that would actually at once make them feel small and awesome and a little bit scary too. So there were so many visitors in the 19th century, they built an observation tower so they could look around. Well, this continued into the 20th century. Right at the beginning of the 20th century, I think 1902, there was a fire in the guardhouse. And after that, they turned it into, they built a dance hall. They made Old Newgate a dance hall, but it was a dance hall plus. In the 20s and 30s, this is when it became the dance hall, but they had these really funky attractions you could come, these exhibits. They had a bear and a bear cub in a cage. They had a World War I tank. They had antique cars. When you think about it, what's an antique car in 1920, right? Really old. People would come. That lasted into the 60s. Then in 1968, 50 years ago, the State History Commission took over the museum, and for the last 50 years, it's been a state site. And, in some ways, thank goodness for that, because the problem with Old Newgate is it's a very important historic site, but many of the buildings were built on these old copper mine tailings, because the mine was, the prison was originally a copper mine. So the buildings have been really unstable. And keeping that site intact has been literally a major engineering problem. It's why the site's been open and closed for many years, and the state's invested a lot of money in bringing it back to a condition where people can come visit it again and see so much of Connecticut's history in one place. Some people wonder why in a state where money is tight, the state would invest so much money in a site like this. But I have to tell you, if you talk to most historians who center their interest in Connecticut, they'll tell you this is a site with probably the greatest potential to educate people about Connecticut's history that we have. And it's got the potential to be the greatest attraction. Let me tell you why. For school kids, they come to Old Newgate, they don't just get this amazing history lesson, they start out, where else can you go into an old copper mine? It is a physical science lesson. It's a lesson in geology. It's a lesson in how, it's a lot colder down there. It's dark, so it's scary for them, but it's also a science lesson and it's a history lesson. This was a Revolutionary War prison for loyalists. So not only do they learn about the American Revolution, but they learned that it wasn't just America versus English, it was brother versus brother. It was a civil war before the Civil War. That's an important lesson. It's a lesson in kind of the history of social justice and in crime and punishment. People are shocked to learn that Old Newgate was actually a kinder, gentler form of punishment, because prior to building this prison, criminals had been punished by literally being physically disfigured. They'd be branded. They'd have their ears cropped, meaning pieces cut out of their ears, so everyone could see that they had been shameful criminals. This was a step, toward the criminal justice system we have today. And I think it's important for people to learn these lessons that we have evolved over time, that, the past does have real lessons for us and they create an arc and trajectory. So I envision a time where, people come to Old Newgate by the tens of thousands to see all kinds of shows, all kind of entertainment, and to kind of be at the epicenter of the history, the culture, and the really important parts of our past.
Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this program with us today. We're really proud of the work that's being done here. Look forward to the future. And we do look forward to seeing you on July 14th and in the season afterwards.